All right, Amy Lacey, welcome to Persistence Playbook.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having
I
me.
know we're
This is
really,
awesome.
really excited to have you on the show, and I just think that you've got just so much going on from the companies that you founded and your voice within the health industry and as well as the books you've authored. It's clear that you have maybe not mastered because none of us have mastered it, but you are a persistent person and you've got some grit and you know how to put one foot in front of the other. And I kind of want to drill down on exactly how you get stuff done.
I love it. I'm a big fan of your podcast. We have a lot of, you did your top 10 for 2025. And I was like, I felt affirmation like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the right things. This is exactly what I do. 'Cause I grew up um, single mom, not there were not mentors in my life when I grew up. I didn't have like that person that I looked up to that I was like, I want to be that person. Like I didn't have any goals. And a matter of fact, when I was 12, I ended up going into foster home for a short time. And then I eventually landed in this farm in Gaston, Oregon. And then to be reunited with my mom eventually. And there's a lot in there that I believe built my resilience and grit, but I didn't have any. You talk about like having a mentorship, having a mentor, and surrounding yourself with the five people, and that's who you're most like, and all of that. But I didn't have that growing up, so I'm like, when did I turn into an entrepreneur? And I really thought about it, and I had to put myself through college, and so I worked this job, and that was really my first mentor. I waited tables and
Okay.
I gave brewery tours at this little brewery at the time because I'm 55. So this is like over 30 years ago. This little brewery called Sierra Nevada Brewery that Ken Grossman owned, that's now a multi-billion dollar
Sierra, like
enterprise.
that's like the Sierra Nevada.
The Sierra Nevada. I was
Wow.
born and raised in Chico, California. So after I came back from the little farm in Gaston, Oregon, that really changed my life. It taught me a lot. Eventually, I went on to go to college and I had to pay for it myself. So Ken Grossman hired me, and he really was my first mentor. Now, he started that brewery in his garage in Chico, California,
Okay.
and with a partner. And that partner was still involved when I was working there. And this is the late 80s, early 90s. Okay, were you born yet?
Yeah. Yes, I was. I was born in 1986. So yes, I was. I was
Okay,
there.
so you were like a toddler
I was
then.
alive. I was alive. I was here. I was here. I was ready.
Okay,
I didn't know
well,
what was going on, but I was
I
here.
have a purpose to this, and I know you have a lot of questions, but
No, no,
I
this is
just,
great. This is great. Please, I always,
I want to
I
jump
think
right.
the origin story is always interesting because I think we can kind of
Yeah,
find the origin of our persistence a lot of times in our childhood, in our first jobs.
yeah. And when you say resilience and grit, immediately it goes to my childhood. So you said that as the intro, so I'm like, okay, I'm going right
Let's
there.
go.
And so in college, he hired me. And I just remember Ken would show up to work in overalls. Like people thought he was the maintenance guy.
Right.
And his partner would come in maybe once a week in a suit driving a Corvette. And Ken drove like this old beat up car. Like you never, I remember thinking when I first started working there that Ken was like
I
nobody.
like
And
Ken.
this
Ken sounds cool. I'm a big Ken
well, wait,
fan.
there's a whole point to this. And the other guy is like, must be somebody big because he drives this fancy Corvette and he's in this suit and we only see him every once in a while and he strolls in and strolls out. Well, very quickly within that year, Ken separated from that partner, bought that partner out. And immediately I worked for Ken for 5 years, the whole time I was in college and then the year after. And I watched him take that business. He knew the potential of that business. So he separated from that partner and he went all in on that business. And he became my biggest mentor probably in my entire life because I got to watch him separate from a partner that wasn't doing anything. I got to see, and this goes to all those people that stroll Instagram and they see these peoples with people with the fancy cars and the yachts and stuff. Don't be fooled, people. I was, this little 18-year-old thinking this guy was something, and he was nothing.
Right.
He left that business, and Ken put everything into it, and that business is a multi-billion-dollar business now, and he is the number one microbrewery, if you want to call him a microbrewery anymore. It was such a great experience for me. And he was my first 401k. He ended up giving all of us a 401k.
Wow, that boy Ken.
Yeah, he gave us incentive. And my first time I ever did, and now I'll admit this now, but for a long time I didn't tell anyone because I really probably should have been fired for this. But I didn't drink. My biological dad was an alcoholic, and I lived with him for a short time, and I got to see how alcohol was destroying his life. So I didn't drink, and Ken would give us a case of beer a week free back then. I don't think he does that anymore.
Right.
So if you waited tables or you were a hostess, you got a case. But if you gave tours of the brewery, which I did once a week, you also got a case. So I was getting 2 cases of beer a week free.
That's pretty good.
So I ended up in a storage shed, stocking them up, and then I ended up selling them to the UC Davis ski team. And that was like my first, I got them free and I sold them, and they were the misfit beers. Like the beer was fine, but the labels were backwards, or like he was giving his employees the misfits.
Sure. It's free beer though. You can't be angry about it.
No, everybody thought it tasted great. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is giving me like an extra $600 a month.
That's pretty good.
Then,
that's a nice little bonus. That's a nice little bonus right there. Selling the misfit beers. I love it.
But what I loved about Ken, and then we'll move on, is very calm.
Yeah.
Never saw him get angry. Never saw him raise his voice. He stayed extremely calm all the time. In the business, knew everything, knew everybody in the business day to day. This is what I loved about him. He wasn't pretentious. He was humble. I think he gravitated to hiring people that, like Patrick Landensky says, hungry, humble, with strong emotional intelligence. Even us young kids, we really looked up to him.
Sure.
But he knew his customers. Those people that love to hang out at the bar all the time. Not the alcoholics, because he didn't serve hard alcohol. It was just beer. But those guys that would come in after work, he knew all of them.
Yeah.
And Chico is a small town, but he made it a point to know them intimately, to know his customers. And I think that's really important. And he made you feel special. So you wanted to work extra hard for him. So I love that. And it just goes to show that the guy with the fancy suit and the Corvette, I can't even remember his name. I don't even know what he's doing these days, but I know he doesn't run a multi-billion-dollar company.
Probably not as cool as what Ken's doing.
And Ken has never taken in outside money either.
Wow, that's pretty impressive, actually.
Done it on his own, yeah. So it's a family business.
I think you brought some great points there just towards leadership in general, right? I think just getting the time to know your clients or your employees on a one-to-one basis, getting to know everyone's name and making everyone feel valued and special, and, getting to know people on a personal level. And, let's say one of your employees tells you that their niece is about to graduate high school, maybe making a note about that and trying to remember that for the next conversation. Little things like that will make your employees work a lot harder and go the extra mile for your company.
Yeah, treating your employees. Well, my employees have always become like family. So with Cauliflower, it was the first cauliflower pizza crust. That company wasn't meant to be a company. That literally was something that I did to serve myself because I was diagnosed with lupus, which, by the way, for your listeners, if you have any trauma at all in your life that you haven't dealt with, I promise you it'll manifest itself into illness many years later if you don't deal with it. So that's pretty much what happened to me. That childhood trauma, that the things I experienced from the age of 12 to 15, maybe 10 to 15, that I buried down, never dealt with it. And when I turned 40, boom, lupus attacked my body. So the cauliflower pizza crust, I was told I needed to be grain-free, gluten-free. I was looking for a way. I have 3 kids. We used to do family night fun pizza and board games. I had a lot of traditions with my kids because I grew up with none. And so I was like very protective of my kids and my family and the time I spend with them. So I was trying to bring back that family fun night, and I created a pizza that I could eat. And then my kids actually liked it. And then I took it to farmers market so I could teach them how to talk to adults. And then I just happened to have experience online. It was fully baked. I put it online. It went viral on Facebook, and boom, I have a business.
How cool.
So I hired like friends and family in the beginning. And then, I hired people. Like my right-hand person was my esthetician,
No way.
and she's a very smart person. And she helped me build that company to an 8-figure business that we exited together. And now she's back with me. She's my ops person for our company now, but she was my esthetician.
I love that. That's a great story. That really is. I think it's so
Yeah.
cool that you basically were just solving a problem for yourself that eventually turned into an 8-figure exit. I think you see that a lot with successful companies. Is the founder was originally just solving a problem for themselves, then they realized, wait a second, a lot of people have this problem, and this solution could actually scale.
Yeah. So with the cauliflower, I when I first started going out, after I realized it could be a thriving business and it went viral, I started going out trying to get it into grocery stores, and I kept getting no, no, no. Like cauliflower doesn't sell, the vegetable. It's the last veggie standing on a veggie tray at a football party
Well, that
or
is
any party.
that is actually true,
Nobody
but
ever eats it. It
that is true.
smells. It's not really a vegetable because it's not green. No, I heard it all and a lot of no's. And I've always learned, I don't know, this might be my scrappy, that no is just next opportunity. Like if you really want it bad enough,
Love it. I love
you
that.
just you're not annoying to the person that's telling you no. You just figure out what is their need. How can you fulfill their need and not make it about you? Like how can cauliflower pizza crust, fit Safeway's needs or Walmart's needs? Like what is it that we can do for them? And it'll happen, but you've got to be patient and you got to be persistent, but in a very professional way.
I love
So
that. No is next opportunity. That's a good one.
no is next opportunity. Just don't think of no as like slam in your face, not going to happen. If you want it bad enough, you make it happen, but try to put them first and not think about yourself. And you'll come up with creative ways that will serve them. And eventually it'll happen. It will. Eventually it'll happen. I'm a great example of that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like you said, putting the customer first, putting service at the top of your value charts, I think is important. And just by doing that, by thinking about how do I actually serve this customer in the best way possible, it will tap into a creativity that you just would not tap into otherwise. And it'll also get you to keep saying yes when people are saying no, and stay persistent in the face of resistance if you're thinking in that service mentality. If you're only thinking about your own wins and how can I benefit, then you're going to run out of persistence a lot quicker, I think.
Absolutely, for sure. You also, there's nothing better than the feeling of getting testimonials from people that you've made a difference in their life or you've been able to impact them in some way. And that fuels a lot for me. That fuels, when you're experience that kind of level of success, especially at the speed that we did, you're going to have a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And so what is going to persevere you through those times of lows? Like what's going to get you through? What's going to make you get out of bed in the morning? And when you just want to hide. And it's those testimonials. Hands down, the testimonials I got during that time, there were people with cancer that were going on low carb diets. There were people losing weight. There was, diabetics could eat pizza again. The list goes on, and it kept me going. And it really is the reason I'm doing the company I'm doing today as well. So it's a way to pay it forward, and it's a way to just keep going when things are tough. Because if you're an entrepreneur, whether you're successful or not, whether you're just starting out or you've been in for years and you're an expert, it's a lonely place. And there are times that are very disheartening, very discouraging, where you're just, I don't know, for me, I'm on my hands and knees praying.
For sure.
There are times definitely like
For
that.
sure, for sure. It can be an alienating, lonely lifestyle, especially when you're in that building phase, right? A lot of those hours are just you,
Oh,
you and a computer screen, and you're just
yeah.
trying to, take one step at a time. And a lot of times you get up and you're not a house on fire, and you don't feel like doing those 10 things that you know you should do.
No.
And those moments are tough. And I kind of want to dive a little bit into that. And I know that it sounds like the testimonials kind of kept you going once those came in. But what about in the phases where you were just getting no after no after no at these supermarkets? What was your inner mentality? Was there any self-talk or mantras that you relied on? Like what was your why in that moment that kept you going?
Yeah. So, well, my why was always what I knew the product could do. But yeah, I have this this mantra shift in the middle of this. Well, first of all, I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm okay to admit those. And I share a lot of those on different podcasts, like specific mistakes I made. Like I made $1 million mistake in the year 2018. But what I've learned is like a mantra shift where I used to think, why is this happening to me? But now I don't think that way. I think, more of not this is happening to me. It's not happening to me. It's happening for a reason that I may not be able to see right now, but eventually I'll be able to see. And that's happened over and over and over. Matter of fact, it just happened last weekend. I'll just give you a little example.
Perfect.
And it kind of sounds negative, but 10 years ago, I had somebody that, I don't want to say too much, but basically I ended up having to get a restraining order against this person.
Okay.
And it had to do with the cauliflower business, and it was a person that was kind of stalking me. So I had to get a restraining order. I had to get legal action involved. Last weekend, I was scheduled to speak at an event in Arizona. We had terrible storms in Florida. I go to get on my flight. It's canceled. I get on the next flight. I get to Atlanta. My flight from Atlanta to Arizona is canceled. So I get bumped onto another flight. No problem. I'm I always get there the day before. I never try to get there the day I'm speaking. I'm not one of those people that flies in, speaks, and flies out.
Sure.
I go to the event, I attend the event, I get to know the audience. And I love to get there early, because if I need to shift what I'm going to say to fit the audience's needs, I've done that many, many times.
Love that.
So I've got plenty of time to get there. I'm not stressed. I get on the next, I've gotten bumped. I've got a seat. I'm on the flight. On my flight. I'm diamond on Delta because I fly all the time. I'm in first class. I'm blessed to be in first class. And the flight attendant, everybody's seated. We're ready to take off. She goes, Miss Lacey, I'm going to need you to step off the plane for a moment. I'm like,
that's fun.
Okay. Now, my original ticket that got canceled was on frequent flyer miles. So I try to use those. I use my points from my credit cards. I try to fly on miles, especially if I'm flying first class, because I'm kind of cheap. I don't like to spend the money. So
same here.
So I get off, and she goes, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to ask you to take a different flight because somebody paid for their ticket and they actually have that seat and you are a frequent flyer mile. I'm like, what? That's never happened to me, where I actually was already in the seat.
Oh, that is brutal. Off. That is brutal.
Yeah.
No, I've never even heard of that. That's terrible.
I know. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't very nice. And usually I'm not a Karen. Sorry, all the Karens out there, but I'm not usually a Karen. I'm usually really try to put myself in their position.
Yeah.
But I wasn't being very nice. And she's like, look, we're going to get you on another flight, but we don't have any other seats. I go, well, I'll just pay for my ticket then. If she paid for the seat, I'll pay for it.
Right.
I'll pay more than what she paid.
Right.
Is she a diamond? I was doing all that.
So you were kind of leaning into the Karen a little bit. We're all allowed to once in a while.
I was being a Karen. I was really upset because now this is like the third flight.
Yeah.
So, and I'm in Atlanta, and Atlanta's like all these flights are canceled.
Yeah.
Like, because this is like all the. It wasn't last weekend. It was the weekend before. Excuse me. It was 2 weeks ago.
We're going to have to fact check you on that. We're going to have to fact check you.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, not last weekend, the weekend before, when the whole eastern side and southern, like there was snow in New Orleans. I used to live in New Orleans. There was 10 inches of snow. It's crazy. Okay. So all these flights are canceled. Okay. Long story short, I don't get on that flight. The only flight available for me is going to get me in after my talk. And the host of the program is so gracious. I'm keeping her up to date. I'm keeping her assistant. She's like, look, we'll just move your talk to the next day. No problem. Well, I couldn't do it the next day because I already had another obligation. So I can't get a hold of them. I end up getting on another flight and going home because I'm like, and I tried other airlines, by the way, too. I mean, nothing was working for me to get to Arizona, which is really crazy in this day and age. Like I should be able to get to Arizona. No problem.
I agree. But I guess the question is, how is this working for you? Is I'm curious.
Exactly. It's not to me, but I was like, why is this happening to me?
Right. It's tough to not be in that mindset, at least at first, naturally.
It was not happening to me. It was happening for me. And that is the point that I was going to say, my mantra shift that I learned years ago. But because it happened 2 weeks ago and it was just this crazy experience. So I am really upset because I'm not going to make it. And there's only one other time where I didn't make a talk, and I was going to be on stage with Jamie Kern-Lima.
Oof.
And that was because of a hurricane. Okay. And I literally couldn't even drive anywhere to get to anywhere. So, but that's a whole nother story. So anyways, I get home, I call her, and thank God I'm on a panel. So it's like a large panel. So I'm not going to be too missed. I'm not doing a keynote, that kind of thing. So I apologize. Well, one of my teammates is there manning our booth and giving out our product. And I get a call from her and she's like, it is a good thing you're not here. And I said, why? And she goes, you know, such and such person that I have a restraining order against.
Oh no, they were there.
She has a booth across the way from us.
Oh no.
And I'm like, what?
Wow.
And I haven't seen her in 8 years. I'm like, how is that possible? Well, she's changed her life. She's done some things. And she had a booth across the way. I haven't seen her in 8 years. I hope she's changed. But the last person I'd ever want to spend a couple days with would be, I would not want to be near her or I don't want to see her. I have a restraining order that's still active. And I think sometimes God, I have a very strong faith. I lean into my faith a lot, but I think sometimes his protection is, rejection and redirection. And so that's what I think happened 2 weeks ago. I mean, there's no other reason why all that happened, I think, other than I wasn't supposed to be at that event. She was there, and there's no way I was supposed to be there. It would have been a very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah. And I think that reframing of, this happening to me as opposed to, this is happening for me is a really powerful one that we can apply to almost anything seemingly negative that's happening in our lives. And, I had an instance once where I had an employee and I didn't know that I was supposed to have, workers' comp insurance for them. It was my first ever hire, and it was an assistant, and I just didn't even occur to me that I was supposed to have workers' comp insurance. And then I got this letter in the mail from the state of New York, and they were coming after me for thousands and thousands of dollars, a really large sum for me at the time, something I wasn't really even able to pay. And it was a very easy moment for me to be like, why is this happening to me? And I heard that mindset shift from somebody else recently, before this happens. And I kind of applied it to the situation, why, how is this happening for me? And it kind of just made me realize in that moment that, okay, I might have a large sum of money to pay off here to the state of New York in the coming months or years. But I do think this will also make me more motivated in the moment to take as much action as possible, because I know that I might have some payments coming up that are a little loftier
Yeah.
than I anticipated. And it really did work out that way. I wound up taking a lot more action over those next 6 months because I knew I had this possibly heavy fine hanging over my head. And I think you can just apply that mindset shift to so many different things in our day, little things or big things. Why is this? How is this happening for me?
Yeah, for me, not to me. I love that. And that's definitely something I use a lot. Um, the other thing I do, and I think you talked about this, is I try to, every day, I try to look at, I call it win stacking, because I really believe your mind controls everything from whether you're sick to whether you're successful to how you handle people and failures and all of that. So I try to do what I call win stacking, which is every day I just look at what were my big, like when I'm laying in bed, because every day I'm going to be laying in bed at some point. Like
For
what are
sure.
the
Even entrepreneurs lay in bed at some point.
yeah, at some point, what are the top three things that happened today that were the best things? Like, what are my top three wins? And
Sure.
I always want to make sure I have wins. And it could be something as little as I called a relative, or I visited an elderly person. I take care of my aunt now who has no children. It might be just something as little as me making her dinner, or spending time with my son, something like that. I have I have three kids. Two are out of the house now; they're in college, and one is still at home. So, um, yeah, it could be something as little as that. And then in business, it might be just, did I help somebody today? Did I
Sure.
do something, like something small? Like maybe it's just connecting somebody with somebody. So yeah, I
That's
try.
powerful. That is powerful. And I think there's a lot of science behind that too. There's really nothing that's
Yeah,
quite as motivating as a driver for us as human beings as documenting and taking a look at those victories, right? If we see some
yeah,
momentum in our rearview mirror, we see these wins stacking up, and we actually take notice of them, we're so much more likely to get up and take action tomorrow. Whereas if we never actually take a moment to look back on those wins, then we're going to more easily get frustrated, and we're going to have more days where we put a zero on the scorecard. So I like that win stacking a lot, and I like how it doesn't have to be a business win. It could be a family win. It could be I ate healthy today. I went to the gym. It could be a health win, but
hmm
taking taking inventory of 3 wins a day is going to give you more juice when you get up in the morning to take on the following day.
and it will help you sleep at night too. Because I don't know, for me, I have trouble sleeping, and my husband's board certified in sleep. I'm like,
Wow, that's a nice talent for your husbands to have. I love that. I almost wanted to start talking.
yeah,
I wanted to start talking sleep right now. Sleep is one of my favorite topics, by the way.
it,
That's how you know you're getting a little older, because you love talking about sleep.
it's so true. No, yeah, he's board certified in sleep, and for many years, I'm like, you're a doctor in sleep, help me. I can't do melatonin. I would never do Ambien, none of that kind of stuff. So actually, we've created a formula. It's not out yet that doesn't have melatonin,
Okay.
and we're working on an app. It's more about getting your body back in its natural rhythm. So, anyways, it's also about releasing the mind. And if you can think about the three small things you did, and I love that you brought up health and wellness, because I'm trying to lose 55 pounds before my 55th birthday. And I'm halfway there, but
Good for you.
I only have a couple months to get halfway more there. And I know probably realistically it's not going to happen, but it's okay because I celebrate the wins. For example, I have this goal of drinking half my body weight in water every day.
Sure.
Like, I believe you got to drink a lot of water, you got to get good sleep. But if you can lay in bed and either write down or think about the three little wins you had, and go to bed with a positive mindset, like, oh, I accomplished these three things. Oh, I did something to serve somebody today. You will sleep. You will sleep so much better.
I love
It's
that.
the anxiety and it's the thoughts of what didn't I do? Or, oh, I could have done this better. Or, oh, I wasted the day. Or oh, I didn't do this, it keeps you awake at night.
Sure. And I think any high achiever, successful executive or entrepreneur can relate to that. They certainly usually get stuck in a mindset of, did I do enough today? I didn't do enough today. Whereas,
Mhm.
if we just take that time to recognize those 3 wins, we might get a little bit more REM sleep, a little bit more deep sleep than we would have otherwise.
Exactly. So it is a very powerful tool. And yes, sleep. Look, if you're on a mission to lose weight, make sure you're sleeping, because
Right, 100%. It really does make a big difference.
it's like a 6-pound difference,
For sure.
literally.
For
Like
sure.
if you go a bunch of days without sleep, you're going to get on the scale, you're going to gain weight.
Right.
Doesn't matter what you ate or how hard you worked out, you're going to gain weight. If you get good night's sleep, and let's say you blew it a little bit and you ate something bad, or maybe you didn't run as far as you normally run or exercised as hard as you did, but you got good night's sleep repetitively for a few days, you're going to lose weight. It's just like, yeah,
So sleep
it's
is like it's like the least sexy pillar of health. I think we all like talking about exercise, diet, a little bit more so. It's a little bit more exciting to talk about those topics, but I think sleep is just as important, if not more important than those two. And before we leave sleep, I got to ask, since your husband is an expert on the topic, what is his viewpoint on like the wind down blue light blocking glasses that people wear before they go to sleep? Is there any validity behind that science, or is that just $100 that I'm going to waste if I buy those?
Well, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to ask him about the glasses, but definitely he's anti the blue light. Like, definitely turn your devices off. Light is a big deal
Right.
for sleep. So yeah, cold room. Like, okay, we after I sold cauliflower, we moved from Northern California because of the fires to Florida, and we bought our dream house on the water. And so our master bedroom is like the size of our old house practically. It's pretty big and it's hot and humid in Florida. And my husband believes that we should sleep in Arctic air, like 60-degree, like he wants it cold.
Right.
And our bill was huge. It was just huge to try to keep our bedroom cold. So he put a mini split in our bedroom. Like we have like a Motel 6 in our bedroom. We have this mini split.
That's amazing.
We use them a lot. My husband's family's from New Zealand. So when we go traveling, like in New Zealand or even in Europe, you'll see those mini splits. They're actually not that ugly, but we've got a mini split dedicated to our bedroom so that he can keep it. It's somewhere between 60 and 65 degrees at night in our bedroom.
Okay, that's on the chilly side, but I have heard
that is cold.
That's cold. I think I'm wearing a sweatshirt to bed, honestly. But better cold than warm, I think, is what the science says.
Yeah, so our room is very cold. All the lights, everything, it has to be really dark. He does put a mask on his face. I don't like sleeping with one. He has earplugs and a mask on. That's how he's.
So he's getting that hour and a half to 2 hours of deep sleep. He's hitting those REM statistics the way you want. Like he's getting what needs to be done as far as sleep goes.
Yeah, he's probably pro those glasses, I'm guessing, because he's really.
I'm a big Huberman guy. I love the Huberman Lab podcast.
Oh yeah.
And Huberman's been wearing those red glasses, and those ads have been finding me on the regular. And I've found myself reading some of the reviews. I'm like, I could wear some red glasses at night. I'm sure my son would get a kick out of them, at least if they didn't do anything else.
Yeah, so our whole family loves him, and I guarantee you, I'm going to ask my husband. We haven't talked about it, but I guarantee you, maybe that's like my next stocking stuffer for everybody next year. Is I'll get a bunch of those glasses. But
that'd be pretty cool. I think that'd be something that like people might be a little too cheap to buy for themselves, but if they got it as a gift, they'd be like, okay, this is awesome. I'm really happy that you got me.
How much are they?
I think you can get the cheap ones on Amazon for $20. It seems like the respectable ones that have a lot of good reviews and science behind them seem to start at about $100. And you can get them, with your prescription. If you wear contacts, there's all types of different add-ons. But you know what? I'm going to get them, and I'll shoot you an email in about a month, and I'll let you know. I'll let you know firsthand if I think they're worth it or not. But I'm happy we talked about sleep, because sleep's an important topic as far as persistence goes. It really is.
So important, and he is like, sometimes I'll be like, gosh, I'm so like, I can't remember. I've got brain fog. And he's like, that's because you were under the covers looking at your phone late at night. Like, I feel like sometimes I'm a teenager hiding something from him. I've got like, I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh shoot, I forgot to do that. And I'll grab my phone and I'm like hiding. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, you can't be on electronics.
I can totally relate to that. I definitely give my partner a little bit of the business sometimes. When I catch her on her phone at like 10 p.m., I'm like, you're screwing up your sleep stages right now, that you're not getting enough melatonin because you're scrolling Instagram. And she just kind of rolls her eyes at me. And she she's pretty well.
He's very much into that. Another thing that I think you believe in this too is he's very like no caffeine afternoon.
Yeah, it's an important one. That's sadly not a rule that I stick to every day, but it's certainly one that I aim to stick to on a regular basis. And just kind of curious, as we kind of like dive into caffeine and coffee, like what does your daily routine look like? Do you have a set daily routine, or is every day kind of different for you?
No, well, unfortunately, every day does end up being different just because the nature of the business, something happens but typically I like to stay very consistent with my routine. And also it changes when I'm traveling, and I'm trying to be, better about my schedule and travel less, now. But, as a startup, you're traveling a lot.
Sure.
Usually what I like to do is I get up early in the morning.
Do you set an alarm?
I don't have to set an alarm.
Your eyes just open and you're ready to rock.
I automatically will wake up. It's almost like within the minute.
That's amazing. Good for you. Is that early? Are we talking like 6 a.m., 5 a.m.? Are you a crazy 4 a.m. person?
I like to get up at 5. I have a friend that gets up at 4 and starts, he likes to get up on his bike, and he'll text me sometimes.
God bless those people. 4 a.m. That's
Ken
wild.
Jocelyn. I don't know if you know him. Ken Jocelyn.
I don't know Ken, but he sounds like another ambitious Ken in your life.
He's up at 4 and he's texting people. But anyways, no, I like to get up at 5, and it's because nobody else is awake yet.
Sure.
And I like to just sit, and like I said, I'm very faith-based, so I usually am reading the Bible or doing something spiritual. That is really important to me, and it kind of gets my mindset going in the right direction for me. For me, God is my CEO, so that's what I lean into. I do a lot in business and in there. I just get a lot of my wisdom from there. So that's really important to me. I use the Bible app too. They always have a daily message, so I'm in there looking at the daily message, and they give you these little check marks, and I'm like, okay, I have to make sure I build up my check marks.
Entrepreneurs love a to-do list. We love checking. Yeah. We love checking stuff off a list.
Checklist. Yep. And then because I still have one at home, and I was the kid that had to get myself ready and eat, whatever cereal was available at home.
Sure.
I'm really key on sending my kids with a hot breakfast. Even though I intermittent fast and I don't eat until noon, I make them a hot breakfast. So I still have one at home. So I don't go work out. I go make him breakfast and try to spend a little bit of time with them, get the dog situated. And then what I was doing, and now I've had to shift gears because it was cold, is I was trying to get at least 5 miles in walking on the beach.
Oof, that's a lot of miles. Beach miles, no less. Those are hard miles.
It's great. I'm seeing such a difference in my buttocks and my hips.
And that's what we want, right? We all just want the nicer buttocks and hips at the end of the day. You can take your revenue goals and shove them. I just want a nicer looking touch.
And the cool thing is, while I'm walking on the beach, I'm listening to a podcast.
Okay.
Or I'm listening, like, again, getting my mindset, or I'm making some calls. I started doing calls on the beach, but it was hard because of the wind.
It's a little windy. So probably better place for a podcast. So that's kind of where you fit your daily learning, and it sounds like, is on that walk.
I'm kind of doing two things at the same time. Now, we do have a home gym. It's just right outside my office. So we have this, what we call a barn, which is out. We live on an 1.5 acres. So we live on the water, but if you walk up our long driveway, then we have this like, it looks like a hangar, but inside of it is my office. It's also storage for a lot of the products I sell. And then we have a gym in there. And so there's no excuse for me
Right.
as
It's
far as
literally right
like,
next to your desk, right?
yeah,
Got it.
I always should be able to work out. Now we were as a family doing workouts because my son was playing football. We were doing yoga in the morning. I had to convince him that football players actually do yoga. I'm like, you need to Google it. You need
For
to look on
sure.
YouTube.
Tom
Yeah.
Brady's definitely a yoga guy.
He was giving me a hard time about yoga, but I was also doing it for my husband to get him more flexible
Mhm.
and doing some stretching. So we were doing that for a bit. That's kind of not happening right now. I love Pilates. So yeah, some kind of workout, some kind of movement.
Okay.
Um, I've had triple ankle surgeries, so my running days are over, but you know,
It's
it's
okay.
just
A good walk is a great source of cardio in its own right.
I've done 75 hard many times.
Have you really? You're a 75 hard
I like
multiple
70.
graduate. I love people that love 75 hard.
I've done 75 hard multiple times. It started with, I used to be in the 100 mil mastermind, and those guys all are friends with him, and they were pushing it before it was really a thing.
They're
And so
friends
we did.
with Andy, the
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
75 hard is almost like a religion in its own right. You talk about faith.
Yeah.
Like the people that do 75 hard believe in the power of 75
Yeah.
hard.
Well, I believe in drinking water. I believe in drinking half your body weight in water, in ounces of water. I believe in journaling. I believe in reading I don't really, the books I read are leadership books
Mhm.
or the Bible. So
Now,
I believe in,
where do you fit that leadership learning in though? Is that a morning thing as well? Like I think a lot of busy people kind of struggle to think, okay, where do I fit in reading time? I've got so much to do. How do I
in the
carve out time?
morning. It's the first thing I'm doing. Like I talked about reading in the Bible, but I'm also reading, if I'm reading another book,
Mhm.
like one of the books I love to read is The One Thing. So
Yeah,
I can
sure.
focus on one thing. My husband got me into that book. But
Keller,
whatever,
right? Gary Keller, is he
yeah,
the
yeah.
author of that one? Yeah.
And so whatever leadership books I can, because I'm usually the CEO of the company I'm running. So, or that I founded. So I want any kind of leadership skills that are going to better me, but that's always first thing in the morning.
Love
So
that.
75 hard fits my lifestyle. And
Sure.
here's the other reason. I do that one walk or workout in the morning by myself, but then I love it if I can get my husband, especially when the time changes and it's getting dark later, get him involved when he gets home from work. So then we have another workout that we can do in the outdoors or inside, depending on if I've already done it. Because 75 hard, you got to do one
Two,
inside
right?
or
Yeah.
two outside. One has to be outside.
Yes. Yes.
I think that's awesome. And it kind of goes with that, get some sunlight,
Sure. Get the sunlight in the
get some
eyes. That's going to reset
vitamins.
your circadian rhythm, help you with the sleep
Mhm.
at night for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're up, you're reading, you're reading the Bible, you're reading some leadership books, you go for your long walk, you
Move.
squeeze in some movement. At that point, is it just sit down and it's meetings for the rest of the day, or where does your day go from there?
So I've done really good the last 2 years. I was not good at this with cauliflower, and I had to look at, okay, what worked with for me in cauliflower and what didn't. And one of the things that didn't work for me in cauliflower is I let myself get so busy. I was away from home so much. And when I was home, I was just working all the time. So I time block now,
Okay.
or I day block. So, for example, Tuesdays are my days where it's all the meetings with the team. Like we have a team meeting. Yesterday's team meeting was 4 hours long. Sometimes it's an hour. Yesterday it was 4 hours long, but it's never before 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So that routine I just told you stays pretty consistent unless I'm traveling. And Mondays are like usually meetings that I have with like our Amazon team or their contract employees, their outside agencies. Tuesdays are team meetings and individual meetings with individual team members, and then a group team meeting. Wednesdays, a lot of times are podcasts or
Here we are.
innovation. Yeah. Most of my podcasts are booked on Wednesdays or Fridays if it fits that other
Hmm.
person's schedule. I'll make an exception every once in a while, but I try to stick to that
Well,
schedule.
Wednesday is my podcast recording day too, so I think this was just meant to be, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. And so Wednesday I'll do content
Mhm.
creation. Thursday is I've got a lot on marketing, and I have different people I'm meeting with marketing, and it's mainly marketing and sales.
Okay,
And then Friday is like open. It's like it's the day where I catch up and go see my aunt. It's the day where I might need to take the dog to the vet. It's the day where I might need to have another team member meeting. We might be launching something. I might need to spend more time on innovation. It's kind of that catch up day. I might have an extra podcast to be on or extra content to create. Whatever it is, that Friday is usually where it goes into. And my assistant knows that. Like she has that day kind of, I mean, she's good about checking with me, but we've kind of time blocked that out. And then for a while, now my son's in lacrosse, but during the break between football and lacrosse, he was coming home around 3:30, and I try to be done if I can so I can be present with him. But right now he's practicing until 6 o'clock at night, right after school. So I'm working later than I normally do because I know I have that time to do that.
sure. So you'll go
And
till like 6:30 most weekdays.
sometimes, and it's hard for me not to because I love it.
Okay, see
So it's
that's a
not like
beautiful
this,
thing. I think if you found
yeah,
something that you love that much that you're happy to go till 6:30 every day, then you know you're in the right lane.
I have to pull myself away from it. And that was the problem with cauliflower. I can never say no. We were growing so fast. I mean, we were selling, at one point, we were the number one pizza crust on Amazon for 16 months straight.
That's
Not just
awesome.
cauliflower, but just pizza.
Pizza
And we were
crust.
selling yeah, pizza crust every 6 seconds.
That's
That's a
wild.
lot. Yeah, it
That's a
was
lot of
crazy.
crust.
We were doing millions of dollars every month. And when that was happening, I it was like that was number one. My
Sure.
faith was number two.
Got it.
My team was number three. My family was somewhere number 4 or 5. It
Sure.
wasn't good. It
Sure.
wasn't good at all. Matter of fact, my oldest son and I ended up in counseling together, not even realizing that my absence was, he's a great kid. There was no problems with anything other than he was struggling with a little bit of depression
Okay.
after COVID and his first year of college. He was a little like he struggled a little bit. And so he went into counseling. I went in as support, and it came out that me being gone and me being busy so much actually had a tremendous, huge effect.
Sure.
And I didn't think that it was that big of an effect, but it really was. Like having somebody come home from school and having the parent just sitting there on a call after call after
Right.
call, it made a huge impact in him. So now I'm like, Grant comes home from school. I'm like, hey, Grant, how was school? How was practice? Are you hungry? Let me make you something.
I
Like,
love that.
I'm there. That's what I want to be. And the other thing I've changed too is I now like somebody is going grocery shopping for me. It's one of the things that would take a lot of time that I
Sure.
didn't necessarily enjoy doing. So now I've hired somebody that grocery shops for me. I know you can get your groceries delivered, but I actually like her going and like getting the right fruit and going different places. Somebody comes and cleans my house. Um, my husband's like, when are you going to get somebody to do our laundry? I still do the laundry. I don't know. It's like my vice. I allow myself to watch. Like I love watching The Bachelor. I know it's
What
so cheesy.
what advice?
Well, I give myself permission to watch cheesy shows and check out, like The Bachelor, if I'm doing laundry.
You're still being
Like
productive. You're still being
if
productive.
I'm folding laundry, I feel okay to watch Dateline or The Bachelor or Bachelorette or whatever.
I love it.
So
I love that
I
you need the laundry to kind of to make yourself okay with that, right? To justify
yeah,
that
my
time
husband's like,
wasted.
why are you spending hours doing laundry on Monday nights or, and I'm like, well, I really like Bachelor, and then there's this Mormon show afterwards with all these girls that are on TikTok and they're Mormon, and
Oh my
I go,
God! Yes, I've seen that one in passing. My partner watches that one too.
I know. I'm like, Monday is laundry day, so bring all your laundry down.
I love it.
I make Grant do his own laundry though, just because I want him to be that kid that knows how to do laundry.
It's a
But yeah,
good skill to have in college and beyond for sure.
yeah. And for a while we were having people make our food, but I didn't like it. So I like to make dinner, and and then I can control, I know what I'm eating, what's in it. And especially if I'm on this mission of trying to do intermittent fasting and lose weight, I want to make sure I know what I'm eating.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely easier to control your macros and your calorie count when you're the one
yeah,
making food for sure.
yeah,
But I think that I appreciate you being so authentic and so vulnerable, with that story. And I think that a lot of anyone that's built and exited a company as successfully as you have, there's some sacrifice involved there, right? And you
yeah,
are going to be laser focused on building that business, and there are going to be some things that maybe don't get as much focus as they deserve, and a lot of those things wind up being relationships, our family, our friends. But I think the secret is you realize that, and then eventually you make a change. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't. They just get so addicted to the building and the exiting and the scaling that they just put their relationships third or fourth on that totem pole for their entire lives. And then they look up and they've got no one to celebrate with. And I think that what you did is you realized, okay, I exited this incredibly successful company, and I'm going to do things a little bit differently this time with my next venture, which I think is a really powerful point.
yeah. I had to learn the hard way. I mean, I learned a couple things the hard way. One, I learned, first of all, I sold a portion of Cauliflower. I still owned it, a portion of it, but I sold a huge chunk of it to some venture capitalists out of Boulder, Colorado. Now, when they came in, I was always going to be on the board. My team was safe, and they were never going to change the recipe. Well, what I've learned is that's not realistic with venture capitalists. So the recipe changed. They fired my team. Now, remember, I hired a lot of friends and
A lot of
family.
friends and family, yeah.
I sold my house in California, moved my entire family to Florida. They shut the office down in California, excuse me, and they fired the team. And then they put me on sabbatical.
Oof.
So many of those people stopped speaking to me. They were very, very hurt. I don't know if they didn't think I should fight for them, or I got a bunch of money and left them hanging. I'm not
Sure.
sure. We've talked about it a little bit because all those people now are part of the current business I have. So they went about a year without speaking. We went about a year without speaking to each other, and then we got over it. But it was really difficult. So I went into a complete depression myself, and then having my son deal with depression when we went into counseling, because right after we moved here, COVID hit too. So then we went into counseling, and I went in as a parent to support my son, but it turned out that I was told, you need some counseling. And so one of the things I wish I would have dealt with is the trauma. I had never really dealt with it. So I ended up going into trauma therapy and dealing with the trauma I experienced as a teenager, dealing with some of the feelings I had for my mom, and especially my dad, who was an alcoholic and who has drunk himself to death by now. But a lot of things that happened in my life due to his alcoholism. If I could have dealt with that sooner,
Mm-hmm.
how much more successful could I have been as a mom, as a wife, as an entrepreneur, as a friend, as a business owner? If I could have dealt with that sooner. It took me until I was 50 to deal with it.
Deal with your traumas as soon as you can. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a really solid
Yeah.
message.
And one of the things I learned is so simple, and I think you talk about it too, and everybody talks about it, but I don't know how many people actually use it to the degree that it can be healing, which is gratitude.
For sure.
So in counseling, they had us do gratitude journals, and they were like, you have so much anger towards these venture capitalists. You say they've ruined your life. And I will say, like, money was fine. I had plenty of money. I lived in my dream house, and I was so miserable. Driving, was able to buy my dream car for the first time ever, whatever. I was miserable. And so I had to do a gratitude journal, and they're like, you need to say why you're grateful to the venture capitalists. You need to start appreciating them. Like, you have so much anger towards them for changing the recipe, firing your team, and putting you on sabbatical. While I was on sabbatical, they changed all my passwords. So I had no access to the company that I built,
Jeez.
which to me was like a fourth child,
Right.
I was really bitter, and it was all men. There were no women doing this. It was all men. I was the only woman. So I felt very, I felt very much like I was not respected because I was a woman. So, and then I didn't feel like they understood e-commerce at all. Like, that's how we built the company. I didn't think they understood it. They shut the email down. That used to generate millions of dollars. You know how powerful
Don't shut the email down, guys.
I know, it's so powerful.
Anything but that.
I know, and I'm just like, okay, they don't understand. But
did the gratitude journal actually kind of turn you around?
Gratitude journal was so much. There was so much healing. I was able to. Forgiveness is such a big deal in my life now, and I talk about it on stage a lot. Like, forgiveness is a choice. You get to choose to forgive, and you should forgive. If nothing else, you should forgive for yourself. But the healing of forgiveness is a process. And one of those things that you need to do is a gratitude list for the person that you're trying to forgive. I even did it for the person that I had the restraining order against. But doing it for the venture capitalists, being grateful. And one of the things that having them come in that allowed me to do was have the time and have the resources to dedicate to my son, to dedicate to myself, to healing.
Right.
And at this time, right after COVID, kids were committing suicide. Now, my son was never at that level, but how do I know that?
Right. You never know. I think things can snowball pretty quickly when it comes to depression. So it was really a gift that you had that time to focus on him.
Yeah. And the gratitude that I had towards the venture capitalists to, like, I was in a position to where I could do that. And so I went from extreme hate to them. I mean, as faith-based as I am, I can honestly say I just despised them. And all I could think about was how they were destroying my company, but they really weren't. And I went from that to respecting and valuing the situation, maybe not how it was handled, but the fact that I had the time and the resources to be present for my family, to find the fruit soursop. I would have never found that. I happened to be sitting next to a woman whose daughter had cancer, and I wouldn't have been next to her had I not been in counseling and in therapy. And I learned all about this magic fruit, and my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And so was my right-hand person, the esthetician I talked about, who had helped me build Cauliflower. She was diagnosed with cancer. And so it allowed me to have the time to really research and dive into another product, which has now changed my life. Bigger and better than a cauliflower.
The power, and it really all comes down to the power of gratitude, right? And it kind of circles back to that mindset shift. Why is this happening to me? And then we change that over to, how is this happening for me?
Yeah.
And really powerful stuff, Amy. Thank you so much for your authenticity, for your vulnerability. Thank you for just showing up today and giving us your absolute all. And, where can everyone keep up with what you got going on these days?
Yeah. So is it already that time? Have we already talked that long?
We've been chatting. Chatty Cathy's over here.
We sure have.
Time flies. Time flies when you're talking persistence and grit,
Okay. So I manage my own Instagram.
I like it because
I like to be able to talk to people. So if you message me at Hey Amy Lacey, there's a lot of Amy Lacey's. There's a lot of Amy Lacey accounts that have my picture. It has to be Hey Amy Lacey, HeyAmyLacey. If you DM me, a couple things I have, because we didn't even get here, and I'd love to give your audience this. One of the things I do use now to make major decisions, you probably use this, is a SWOT analysis. Do you use SWOT analysis?
I don't.
Strengths?
I don't.
You don't?
Tell
Okay.
me about it.
Okay. Well, it's just strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Okay.
And so it's an organized system where you can compare. It's almost like looking at lists, but it's in a checkbox. And I have a whole way, and it's not something I invented. It's just something I use. I don't know who the original person that invented the SWOT analysis. I need to find out. But I have a SWOT analysis that I'd be happy to share if somebody wants to DM me. And then I also have these top ways that I'm using AI right now.
Love it.
And AI is becoming like this huge thing. I mean, it is so funny because I will ask AI. The other day I asked it a business question, like, do you think I should do this? And it's like, you've got this, Amy. You know how to do this. Like, I showed my husband. It was freaking me out. And then
AI is our biggest cheerleader these days, for sure.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. And at the end, the AI goes, have you discussed it with Jim? And I'm like, honey, I don't think I've ever talked about you.
Oh,
like,
no.
How would it even know your name? So then I said, AI, how do you know my husband's name is Jim? And it's like, somewhere in the past, you've talked about him. Maybe it's been in an article. Maybe I've learned his name somewhere in the past.
That's
and
wild.
I'm like,
I love it.
It's wild, but it will encourage you. But I have the top ways to use AI. One of the things I love about it is, do I have a moment to tell a quick story?
Sure. Get in there.
I can't tell what time it is right now because I don't have my glasses on. Well, really quick, we hired this guy to do our emails. I believe in the power of email. I learned email is kind of a funny story. I listened to a podcast, Jeff Walker's The Power of Email. Then I implemented it. I called Jimmy. I said, she's my right-hand person. I said, we've got to do an email. We sent out an email to our cauliflower list, and the next day we had $85,000 in sales from one email.
And after that, that's good email right there.
Yeah, I started using email readily. So anyways, excuse me, I hired this guy, and he was using AI for our emails. And we had a customer that said, but it was signing my name. And we had a customer that said, hey, I plugged your email into an app and it said AI wrote it, but you're putting your name on it. And you're all about authenticity. Like, what's happening here? And I was like, whoa.
Busted.
Yeah, because I said, okay, Christian, these are the titles. These are the things I want to talk about. Write the emails based on this. Do I need to write the emails and you edit it? No, I got it. So we let that person go and we started writing the emails. Well, I was like, gosh, everybody's writing them with AI. I want to use AI, but I want it to be me. So one of the ways you can do this is you ask AI, you tell AI about your business. AI knows about my business already. You tell it about your business, but then you ask it to ask you 50 questions that it should ask you about your business. So it's going to ask you like who your avatar is, all these different questions, and you answer them. You plug in the information back and you answer them as authentically in your voice, not using AI to answer AI.
Right.
And then the key is you go back to that same screen and this is ChatGPT. So it's a simple AI.
Sure.
It's not using any fancy apps. And you go back in there and using that same voice that's answered those 50 questions, you can write an email based on that. Now, when you go to take that email from that same, it's got to be on that same screen that you've answered all those questions. So It's got to be your voice. You plug that email into the app that tells you whether it's human or AI, it will say human.
Really? That's pretty wild.
AI wrote it. Because it's awesome. Writing it. Yeah, it's writing it based on those 50 questions. And it can't be yes or no questions. It's got to be, you got to write like paragraph. It takes some time. It's going to take you a few hours to do that.
Sure.
You got to put as much information and depth into answering those questions as you can. But it's like spend the 5-6 hours doing that. And then you've got a base for AI that knows your voice intimately. So
that is a really nice little AI tip right there that I have not heard before.
Because I get to pick the topics. I love talking about certain things, but it's so quick to use AI, and the grammar and everything is all It's
You got to
right
lean
there.
into it. You got to lean into it. But I do like that little hack to kind of make it more so in your voice so that your audience really is getting your voice, that they're not
Yeah.
just getting the chat GPT searching out facts and making it into a newsletter.
You can do that for personal too. Like if you want to write a birthday card to somebody, have them ask you 50 questions about your mom, and then you answer them, and then you go to, hey, will you help me construct, a birthday message to my mom?
I love
It's going
that.
to sound like you go to plug it in, is this AI or human? It will say human. But
I
the
like
key is
that.
50 questions, and the key is to go back to that same sheet. Okay, but I have other tips too. I'm in a pod with a bunch of very wildly successful business people, and they came up with the top ways to use AI.
I love
And
it.
so I'm happy to share that one sheeter too. If they DM me, I can do that. And then I know my team put together a code for our
They
supplement products.
they did. I forget what it is off the top of my head, but I'll definitely leave it in the show notes. I
Okay.
think it was like
I,
Persistence Playbook 20, but don't quote me on that. It was something along those
it is
lines.
Playbook 20. It is Playbook 20. Yeah. So, yeah, try Soursop Nutrition. Try our Soursop products. They're more than just the typical Soursop products that are on there. I have spent 3 years researching, doing scientific studies where they're not published yet, but they will be. And we have worked really hard on sourcing clean ingredients. We just launched our electrolytes. They're amazing. And we've got our Soursop gummies and our shakes, and we will have skincare. Uh-oh. It looks like my internet just went out. I don't know what happened. The
Sorry,
internet
Amy,
went out.
we lost you there for a second,
Yeah,
but we caught most of it there, and everyone,
okay.
you back with us here, but internet's at least it gave it at the end. I'm happy it didn't bail out in the middle of our conversation, but long story short, get out there and buy yourself some soursop gummies and check out Amy on Instagram. Make sure to drop her that DM and get the rest of those AI tips. I know I'm gonna, because that first one was absolutely fire. And
Thank you.
Amy, thank you for being with us today. This was so much fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sorry about that ending there.
No worries. Keep us on our toes. And, everyone out there for listening, I appreciate you all. And this is your weekly reminder that you will feel resistance to the important work you should. In those moments, lean into your why and take action anyway. But we'll catch you next week.
Yeah.